Lauren Moretto. Lauren did her Master of Science at Carleton University, and for the last 3 years has been working at Credit Valley Conservation. Unfortunately, Lauren has been unable to join us in person, but she kindly pre-recorded a presentation, and so we will give her presentation virtually. Her presentation is a book to which is about to be published, to which she is both an editor and an author, a contributing author. And the book is Introducing Urban Bats, Biology, Ecology, and Human Dimensions. Editor and an author, a contributing author. And the book is Introducing Urban Bats,
why are we hearing that?
Ecology, and Human Dimensions.
Sorry, we've got a bit of feedback here.
Okay.
So I'd like to reflect a bit on how this started for me. Back in third year undergrad at the University of Toronto, St. George campus, I was, as many undergrads are doing, trying to figure out where I wanted to go and what I wanted to be. And our mammals class had Brock Fenton as a guest speaker one day, and he gave an excellent presentation. And I was really, really inspired and excited to maybe dabble in, looking at bats a little bit. So I became involved with a couple of projects, one out of High Park, which was looking at bat activity in the park through recordings, and one at the Royal Ontario Museum. U of T had an affiliation with the Royal Ontario Museum, and so quite often the students could work with curators at the museum as well. So I was fortunate enough to work with Bert and Lim on a little project about fossilized bat bones. It was my first published paper. And at that point, I was hooked. And so in fourth year undergrad, I put together a little thesis project, a review paper, and over time that manifested into an actual published review paper titled What Factors Limit Bat Abundance and Diversity in North American Urban Environments. I was really, really excited about this paper, but we had some additional content that was kind of sitting on the side as well. Brock Fenton had proposed that it would be really, really interesting to look at essentially what makes a good urban bat. But at the time, the research just wasn't there. We were just starting to see a rise in urban bat research. So, apologies here, the text is cut off by my camera, but if we fast forward 4 years, you'll find me at the NASBAR conference in Kalamazoo, and as with any of these North American Society for Bat Research conferences, I was very inspired. There were outstanding presentations, and so that's really got me thinking again. Maybe it was time to go to that review article. Maybe it was time to kick off the dust and start writing it again. I thought at the time, you know, the research had developed. There were more papers that had come out about urban bats. And so I went back to Brock about this idea and I said, well, what do you think about a review article? And he said, well, maybe we could turn this into a book. And so that really had me thinking, well, great, okay, this is a big undertaking, but this would be really cool. Let's look at something that makes a good urban bat, and let's see what research is out there, and maybe we could tie this all into a book to tell a story, a global story essentially, which we'll get into in just a little bit. So, why urban bats? Well, I mean, apart from a personal interest in urban wildlife and urban ecology, there are some big, notable, I guess, points here about urban environments. These are environments that are highly anthropogenic, you know, tailored to the needs of humans. But wildlife has learned to adapt to these environments, and I think that's a really, really outstanding ability. So by actually 2050, it's predicted that 70% of the human population will live in cities. And this is going to accompany a 40% increase in the amount of land covered by urban development. But as I've mentioned, this space is also home to wildlife, including bats. And bats are species that have actually been found out of different mammals to adapt quite well to urban environments. But, like other species, bats must contend with the pressures of profound and irreversible land cover change and overcome some very unique challenges of urban environments. Again, they're very tailored to human living. So, some bats are actually synanthropes or synanthropic. And in other words, although most species of bats, yes, are negatively impacted by urbanization in some way, many appear not only to succeed, but thrive in this human environment. And so this observation has really sparked some interesting questions about bats in relation to urbanization. So this had us thinking, well, which traits and behaviors equip bats for urban success? And what features of urban areas really affect the likelihood that bats will successfully persist or even colonize new areas? And how does the success or the fact that bats reside in urban environments affect cohabiting humans? And what's that relationship between bats and humans? So we'll get back to that in a second, but this is where we really pulled together an awesome team. And although I wanted to write this little review article, it's at the beginning of all of this, it's really this outstanding team that manifested this little idea into an amazing book. And I'm forever grateful to not only the excellent group of editors, but the over 40 international authors who have dedicated their time, volunteered their time to compose this, the content of this book. So our co-editing team was made up of 6 co-editors, Christina Davey and Brock Fenton being our locals here. But yes, we also had over 40 international authors who contributed chapters, and we did this project and published through Springer. And so we had this excellent team bringing together their expertise and knowledge from a diverse array of subject matter to really pull together a mosaic of urban bat research. And so this is a really unique approach. Instead of trying to detail everything we knew about urban bats, we decided to rather pull together different snapshots of urban bat research that would provide insight into different, again, fields of urban bat study. So we set out to build the foundation of knowledge about bats in cities and adjacent areas, but also in this way, in identifying gaps in the research, inspire future research and promote conservation of urban bats and get people thinking about urban bats. So this book, we really intended it for it to be a resource for environmental managers and an academic audience. And the unique feature of this book is that it brings together research from all around the world, which has never been done before, about exploring the interactions between bats and urban environments. And so this book is broken up into 3 main sections. We wanted one section to focus in on different aspects about the biology. So we have chapters that look into morphological, physiological, behavioral, and genetic adaptations of urban bats. Everything from, again, parasites to genetic bottlenecks is covered in this section of the book. And then the second section, we tried to look at their ecology. So bats using artificial roosts, and artificial roosts like bat houses and bat condos as maybe being used to support urban bat populations, and the success of that as well. We dived rather into green spaces and blue spaces as urban bat habitats, but also looking at an emerging field of research, aeroconservation, and so dabbling in, aerial habitats for bats in urban environments as well, and trying to inspire some research, as this is a very new emerging field. And so the third section of the book then focuses on bats and humans interacting in urban environments. So we're looking at human perceptions, public health, and ecosystem services of bats. And then the final chapter is more of a big picture chapter that ties together all this content, summarizes this content, and really looks at defining urban environments for future research, but also comparing bats to other mammals in their ability to adapt to urban environments. Again, that overarching summary chapter which kind of closes the book. So again, we've created here a mosaic of urban bat research. This book really stands to be, we hope, a foundational research for reference about some things we do know about urban bats and things we don't know about urban bats. So we're looking at, various, for example, morphological, physiological, and behavioral trends, parasites in bats, but also public health in bats. This book came out in a unique time when we were going through the COVID pandemic, and so we were able to tie some of that information into the book as well. We hope that this book can help direct conservation and management actions. So looking at green and blue spaces or maintaining genetic diversity, outreach and engagement of the public, the use of bat roost structures and their success in certain applications. And looking to, again, as I've alluded to, inspire future research. Ecosystem services about urban bats. Maybe we could use some more research there, or management plans for aerial habitats, given that aerial conservation is a very new field of study. And planning of engagement of the public or citizen science projects to get some more research, given that, again, bats are occupying a highly human area in the world as well, being in cities. So I just wanted to tie this into a kind of a local application, a potential application for this book. I work at Credit Valley Conservation, and our jurisdiction is the Credit River watershed. This extends all the way from basically the shores of Mississauga all the way up to Orangeville. And it's a big, expansive area. And so we were talking about maybe how this book can have, tie into informing some local work, research, and management of bats. So in this watershed, we have 8 insectivorous bat species. They have different life histories, ranging from generalist to specialist, species that hibernate to those that migrate. And 4 of these are species at risk. However, some of these species are synanthropic. So this is wildlife, given that Mississauga, Brampton, and now Caledon, and partially Orangeville, Georgetown, we have some urbanizing and highly urban areas. And so synanthropes, as I've mentioned earlier, are wildlife that lives in close association with people and benefits from its surroundings and activities. But in the Credit River watershed and at Credit Valley Conservation, due to research or resource limitations rather, they've conducted a lot of roadside surveys in rural areas, but they'd like to learn a little more about the urban bats, given that a third of the watershed is covered by urban land cover. So I've talked to Dawn Renfrew. She works with the Natural Heritage Program at CVC, and she's mentioned that, they're aware that a lot of bats exist in urban centers or green spaces in these urban areas like Rattray Marsh or Meadowvale Conservation Area, but they don't know how they're distributed in urban areas. And so it's a big question mark for Credit Valley Conservation at this time in terms of what the bats are doing. And she mentioned that, it would be helpful to understand what is already known about urban bats, so they can, this book can potentially inform you know, designing urban bat inventories. It would also be helpful to know if urban bats kind of act differently or behave differently or have different rules or different needs for management, because there are so many different unique challenges to, you know, planning conservation areas and various applications that occur within urban settlements that may not occur within those rural areas. So this book can start to have people thinking about, you know, what they may need to look at within urban areas to inform future work. So I was really pleased to hear that within my own workplace, but generally we hope that this work shines a light, or maybe removes that light, you know, and keeps that dark space for urban bats, but shines a light rather on research and developing future knowledge and understanding for urban bat protection, conservation, and management. But not literally. Thank you, everyone. I'm happy to take questions, although I can't be at the conference today. You're very welcome to send me questions via email. Thank you.